Thank you, Mr. Corbin. Welcome to those who have joined us this afternoon. We appreciate you very much being here. This is our first ever Florence online virtual TIM team meeting, one of a series of 10 that we are holding in the state of South Carolina. And so far, so good. Things have been going okay. So we're looking forward to continuing this. I saw we have somebody from Howe Springs Fire with us, so you'll see a familiar sight down in the bottom right picture, that truck that you guys repurposed, and just a fabulous resource in your area. That's an F-250 that was given a wrap and a new life, and 100 cones put in the back, and a message board sign on the truck, and one towed on a trailer, and that's made available to pretty well all local agencies in the Florence area. And even though this particular department does not respond within their jurisdiction to interstate incidents, they do make this available to other agencies in the area should they need this resource. 2-lane roads, 4-lane roads, interstate, wherever. And my understanding is that it has been used and very well received. Beside that, in the middle picture, you can see a tabletop exercise that we did at a Rock Hill TIM team meeting at one point in time. Hopefully before 2040 or whenever, we'll get back to face-to-face meetings, and we'll be able to do some more tabletops. Really good two-dimensional display and exercise shows really well how to respond to and set up and operate safely at these wreck scenes. And then the bottom left, Shep guy is doing a demonstration at one of our Greenville meetings, and I can't say enough good things about the Shep guys. Push, pull, drag, do whatever they need to do. They will help clear things up on the roadways. So really, really neat what we do. All three of those pictures were taken at different region and area TIM team meetings. So again, we look forward to getting back to the face-to-face meetings whenever the state clears this up. For right now, we know certain state agencies have travel restrictions, so we're meeting today online with a virtual TIM team meeting. So next slide, please.
Jeff Allen, are you not seeing the slide update?
I'm not seeing, so it probably says who we are and why we are here. Is that correct?
That's correct.
There we are. Good. Okay. So who we are the Parsons Corporation, and we host these meetings. We handle the Sharp 2 training statewide, and we work in close partnership with the sponsoring agency, which is the South Carolina Department of Transportation. And we'll have the very last slide in this presentation this afternoon. We'll show you the contact information for the gentleman at SCDOT and myself, people you can get a hold of with any questions or to arrange any training. What agencies are participating today? I see some state agencies. I see Howe Springs Fire, and I know others will be joining us, so that'll be great. These people will spend some time, spend the next hour with us this afternoon. What agencies and disciplines need to participate, we'll cover that when we get to the next slide. But the main thing is these meetings are important. Why are they important? Because we need to get to know each other. We need to know the people that we're going to be responding to and working with out on these roadway scenes. It's a lot better. I speak from experience. It's a lot better when we show up and we know each other. We understand each other, what our duties are, what our differences are, what we need to do. Hopefully we can do those things concurrently and spend as little time as possible out there exposed to those wonderful D drivers that are hitting us and injuring us, hitting us and killing us in some cases. Today's agenda, I'll go through a little bit of statistical information for the Florence area, and then hand this off to another Parsons person, project manager, Kevin Smith, going to share some really good information, some interesting videos on public safety distracted driving. And then Jay Cox has been really beneficial to this round of meetings. He is with South Carolina Department of Health and Environmental Control, part of the Hazmat Emergency Response Program, and he'll tell us all about that. So that's good stuff. I wish I'd known more about that prior to getting into my business back in the old days, back when we rode the steam engines. No, really, not that far back. Anyway, law enforcement, firefighters, EMS, the SHEP people, as well as the rest of the DOT personnel. Tow and recovery, very important. We're losing far too many of those. Matter of fact, I have a bulletin sitting on my desk here. The cover of the bulletin talks about the deputy that was laid to rest in Greenville last Friday. And then you flip it over on the back and it talks about 2 Montana tow truck operators on foot dealing with a car crash on I-90. Both of them hit by a pickup truck that was trying to avoid a tractor trailer that was slowing down for the scene that those 2 tow operators were attending to. So, and I know October, November, December of last year, we were losing 1 tow operator every 6 days. I mean, 1 in any of these disciplines is 1 too many, but 1 every 6 days in the tow and recovery discipline is just absolutely absurd. So there are some things we can do to be safer out there. It's a matter of all of these disciplines getting together, coroners, DHEC, DOT, you can see the list there, and everybody playing off the same sheet of music. That is very important. Next slide, please. We are working with a lot of agencies right now. We had obviously there was some virus or something that came around and shut everything down in the middle of March. We had a lot of classes that were canceled or postponed. As of 1st of June, we got clearance to start up with the training and face-to-face training again. We do pay attention to social distancing. We do pay attention to face mask requirements, and I do carry a touchless thermometer with me. So we take all the precautions that we need, but we have had some good classes as of the 1st of June, and we have more scheduled before the end of this year. And I'm actually into scheduling in the month of January. So we're firing this back up, and that's really important. If your agency needs or wishes to have this training, or if you have people that need it, get a hold of me. We can schedule them pretty well anywhere, anytime. The only requirements at a minimum are 15 participants. There is no maximum, and all disciplines must be invited. Does that mean they'll all show up? Not necessarily, but they must be invited. Those are the 2 requirements. The key thing with both the classes and these meetings is you need to register online at sctimnetwork.com. We have to know who's coming in the event, heaven forbid, that we don't have our minimum of 15, so that we can get a hold of the people that have registered and let them know the class is not going to take place. Nothing worse, and I know it's happened to me, nothing worse than driving a distance and showing up saying, I'm here for the class, and they say, oh, well, didn't they get a hold of you? The class has been canceled. So the key is with this, once you're picking a date, and you can find those on sctimnetwork.com, you can click on that calendar to see where the sessions are. Once those are, or once you've registered for that, the key is we'll have your email, and the only thing we use that for is to let you know future training, future meetings, or again, heaven forbid, if the particular session that you've registered for is going to be canceled. So that's important. Next slide, please. And it will talk about our schedule, the remaining schedule. I don't see it yet, but I can tell you the remaining schedule after this afternoon's meeting. We had one of Midlands this morning. This is the Florence meeting. There we go. We will skip a couple of weeks. I don't know, next Tuesday, apparently there's some kind of important day where a lot of people are taking off work and going and doing something that's extremely critical. So we'll take next week off, and then November 10th, we'll come back and do our final 3, the 10th and the 12th, Jasper I-95 region, Aiken region, and Orangeburg. And again, if you have people that weren't able to participate in this meeting, and you say, hey, they had some good stuff in there, 2 things. First of all, they can plug into one of these other meetings and the presentations will be pretty well the same, or these meetings are recorded, so they can go on the sctimnetwork.com website after today and look at this meeting if they want to see a specific information for the Florence area. Next slide, please. And this will be a map of the United States, and it will show you as of October 5th in the state of South Carolina, we have trained 7,344. Now, there's actually a few more than that. We've had numbers issued to us in the last, I think it was yesterday or the day before. So it's a little higher than that, but you can see 7,344 in person, 944 web time. Next slide, please. We set a goal this year of 60%. Unfortunately, we had to shut down the face-to-face training middle of March. It's picked back up, and we've actually hit 59.3% effective a couple of days ago. So we're hoping to hit 60, which is great, a lot better than a lot of other states. You can see some of them are very low. But the problem with 60% is there's still 40%, at least 40% of our responders in this state that have not gone through the training. This is critical stuff. This is no cost training to anybody. The only cost involved is perhaps paying someone their time and some gasoline to go to the training. But other than that, the SCDOT has been fabulous in paying for this training all over the state. But if we're fortunate this year, we'll hit 60%. We had a goal of 50% last year. I personally presented the SHARP 2 program 82 times last year to get to 50%. So that's how low our numbers were. And this year we won't hit 82 presentations, but we'd like to hit that 60% goal and then move on from that point in time. Now, let me just mention one thing I didn't mention in the last slide. The class is available. It's a generic Federal Highway Administration class that is available, again, from the FHWA website. Anyone can hop on that website and take that class. However, they need to take the face-to-face class here in South Carolina as of about 2 years ago in order to get 3.5 hours for police recertification, 4 hours for EMS, that's federal DOT and CAPC approved, and Fire Academy, on your transcript. So now the EMS CAPC, that is available through the web training, but the law enforcement and the fire are not. Fire service, we do get course codes and section numbers from your regional office, and I fill out course packages and send those in. Law enforcement, we just renewed for another couple of years, so we do get 3.5 hours for you for the SHARP 2 training for anything you've taken in the last couple of years. Now, if you want an update, if you took this 3, 4, 5 years ago, you wouldn't have got those credit for those hours towards your recertification. If you'd like an update on the class and you'd like some hours, you felt it was worthwhile, I'm sure you did, and you wouldn't mind sitting in on it again, feel free to register for any one of the upcoming classes. Next slide, please. Our local statistics, we're going to see some numbers here. This is as of the 18th. We get county statistics every couple of weeks. So last time we got them were on the 18th. You can see Florence County, 26 fatalities up to the 18th of the month. So that's 26, let's see, 26. They were at 23 last year, 33 in 2018, and 25 in 2017. So right around that same number. Sumter 18, Dillon 12, Marlboro 10. You can see the numbers there. Our deadliest counties, not a list you want to be number one on. Greenville 61, Spartanburg and Horry County tied at 46, and Berkeley and Charleston tied at 45. And we all know if you're out on the roads, and I'm on the roads a lot, I'm putting anywhere from 3,000 to 5,000 miles a month on my vehicle. And it is dangerous out there. I mean, you set the cruise control today at 4 miles an hour over the posted speed limit, and you're probably the slowest vehicle on the road, and that includes tractor trailers. So it is really, really, really deadly out there. Next slide, please. Next slide will show us, again, back at that date, the date we were just showing you, which was the 18th of the month, statewide, we had a total of 799 fatalities. I leave this up here, even though that number's gone up a lot. I leave this up here because of the county numbers. They were issued at the same time. So Florence was 26, Sumter 18, Dillon, Marlboro, you can see in the percentage. So those 4 counties, 8.2% of the fatalities. But with that in mind, let me just say, numbers that came through this morning, we are down 4 crashes with fatalities from last year. So last year at this time, we had 762. We've had 758 fatal crashes to yesterday. Last year, we had 826 fatalities in those 762 crashes. We are up 19 fatalities. We are at 845 as of yesterday. Not a statistic that is good. 1 fatality is 1 too many. If we could get a lot more enforcement out there, that would be great. But unfortunately, anyone in law enforcement knows that they're strapped, tight manpower. Our highway patrol, bless them, they're running from wreck to wreck to wreck. Enforcement time is at a minimum, and it's a shame, but that's what's happening. We are at 845 fatalities, so that's pretty bad. The one statistic that kind of gets to me, I was looking at this a little earlier today, number of fatalities with access to seatbelts, 571. Number of passengers not wearing seatbelts, 303. That's absolutely ridiculous. 303 out of those 845 weren't wearing seatbelts, and they had access to them. We all know that that's just wrong, wrong, wrong. Next slide, please. So you're tired of hearing from me, so I'm very happy to say that there's some great information coming up. Kevin Smith's the field project manager with Parsons, and he's got some really neat stuff to share with you. So Kevin, I'll hand the microphone over to you.
Okay, thank you, Jeff. My name is Kevin Smith. I'm a retired lieutenant with the Metropolitan Atlanta Police Department. I put 29 years in. I left as a watch commander and assistant SWAT team commander. And I spent a good bit of my time doing traffic incident management, mitigation through special events planning, and handling critical incidents. Next slide, please. Distracted driving on our roadways. We see it every day. We see people talking on the cell phone. We see people putting on makeup. We see people shaving, writing or doing crossword puzzles, texting, or eating. It happens every day. And we as law enforcement go out, and when we see that, we can write distracted driving tickets and so forth. But next slide, please. Is this a common occurrence in your emergency vehicle? Police typically ride single to a car. Fire and EMS ride in teams and have multiple people on the vehicle. And the right seater on the apparatus can run the radio and the computer, or the right seater in the ambulance. But in law enforcement, we're typically in the car by ourselves. So our job kind of makes us, to do our job, makes us a distracted driver. Next slide, please. Public safety officers may be legally exempt from the distracted driving laws, but we are not immune to the laws of physics and to the injuries that are caused in those distracted driving crashes. It's estimated that more than 30% of public safety crashes involve distracted driving. NHTSA estimates that 94% of motor vehicle crashes involve a distracted driver. Distracted driving isn't just talking on the cell phone, it's any of the things we talked about. It can be so much as looking down to change the radio station on your FM radio, or reaching over into the seat to pick up something else to eat. Anything that takes your attention away from the roadway is distracted driving. For public safety officers, the laptop and the phone are the primary offenders. The laptop has become the primary method of information delivery in public safety. When you are going somewhere, don't rely on the laptop for the information. If you're moving and don't have time to look at the laptop, ask dispatch to give you that information again, to repeat that address or to repeat that lookout. Make sure they understand why you're doing it, even though you don't want to tie up the radio frequency so that it's available for them. When you're driving, that's the information you need. You don't need to be looking at the laptop. This graphic here shows the difference between what a driver paying attention and not being distracted would see out of their front windshield on the left, and a driver who is distracted by something, a cell phone, text message, something in the car, what they would see out of their windshield on the right. What they actually see is about 40% of what they should be seeing. The reason for that is that studies have shown that audio stimuli takes precedence over visual stimuli in the human brain. So the eyes still see everything that it sees, and it sends all those inputs to the brain, but that central processing unit only has so much bandwidth, and the brain prioritizes that audible signal over that visual signal. This may go back to prehistoric days when it was more important for a caveman to hear that saber-toothed tiger than it was to see it. By the time the caveman sees that tiger, it's probably too late. So distracted drivers see significantly less than drivers on not being distracted. You say, well, that's okay. I use hands-free. I'm fine. Well, whether it's hands-free or whether it's being held up to your head, there's no real statistical difference in the amount of distraction for that driver. When National Institutes of Health and National Insurance Institutes and so forth started doing all their testing with hands-free and handheld mobile phones, after about 10 years, they realized that there was no statistical difference. It was less than one standard deviation in statistics of difference in the amount of distraction between hands-free and handheld. So they have stopped testing it both ways. Now they only test whether they're using a cell phone. It doesn't matter whether it's hands-free or handheld. So you really, and this distraction doesn't have to be a cell phone. An audible stimuli could be a conversation between you and your partner in the front seat of the car with you while you're driving down the road. That audible stimuli can reduce the amount of what you quote unquote see out the front windshield. Next slide, please. This next little slide is a video of a bicyclist who has a helmet cam mounted. You can see him looking around, and when he looks to the right, you're going to see a white police car coming. And that white police car.
You mother! What the fuck are you looking at your phone, officer?
The police officer driving down the road, going to make a left-hand turn to turn onto that road that the bicyclist was on. That bicyclist had pulled up. And in the full video, that bicyclist sits there for about 10 seconds, watching traffic, waiting for a break. As that police officer makes his left-hand turn, he has his cell phone out, and what we couldn't see, what the bicyclist saw, was the officer was looking down at his cell phone while he was making his turn. Not something that we want to do as public safety officers. We come to work, and I don't know of any public safety officer that comes to work going, I'm going to hit somebody today, or I'm going to hurt somebody today. We all come to work, and the reason why we took this job is because we want to help people and make things better, not worse. And we'll go ahead with the next video, which is a tragic story about a family that lost 2 daughters.
He's constantly warned us about the dangers of distracted driving. They can even give you a ticket if you're texting behind the wheel.
But a 41-inch news investigation found some officers not taking their own advice. Investigator Ryan Katz shows the consequences of what happens when an officer's attention wanders from the road.
This photo was taken the day sisters Jessica and Kelly Ewell lost their lives.
You never know in life that that would be your last moment. And I really hope that they didn't know.
It was the day after Thanksgiving in 2007. Kim Schlau remembers seeing the coroner walk up to her house.
I didn't want to open the door because if I opened that door, it became real. And until I opened that door, I still had 3 daughters.
Jessica and Kelly died in a horrific head-on collision with an Illinois state trooper.
He literally drove through the top of their car.
The trooper was responding to a car crash in the St. Louis area. Court records show he was driving 126 miles per hour, talking to his girlfriend on a cell phone, and emailing for directions on his computer when he lost control of the car.
On so many levels, this crash was preventable.
An extreme and tragic example. We found video of other crashes that never made headlines. Watch as this Missouri State Trooper driving 60 while looking at his computer drifts off the road and then loses control. 41 Action News investigators looked through 40 crash reports in Missouri, all with a common cause: distracted driving by law enforcement.
Watch out. And that's when he hit.
Bob Dyer was driving on this Independence Road last August when he slowed down to take a right-hand turn. Police officer driving behind him never even hit the brakes. Bob's head smashed the back window of his truck.
He says, I'm so sorry. He says, I'm looking at my computer.
We read similar stories all over the state. Officers getting into wrecks because of distraction.
And just listen to the close call a sheriff's deputy had last year. He was on the phone and approaching a railroad crossing in rural Johnson County, Missouri. He says he didn't see or hear the train coming until the very last second when he slammed on the brakes. The train collided with the bumper on the deputy's car and actually spun it around so it was parallel with the train tracks. That deputy just a couple feet away from losing his life.
We found distraction is cited as the main cause in an average of 3 police crashes every month.
Yeah, it's very easy to get distracted.
Sergeant Andy Coates, a state patrol veteran of 17 years, admits there's a lot competing for his attention these days.
On a black Ford Taurus.
Along with the radio, there are lights and sirens, radar technology, and most of all, the laptop sitting right next to the wheel.
Officers are wrecking squad cars all over the country because they're distracted, because they're focused on something else.
It's such a problem that Keith Wenzel, a longtime sergeant with the Dallas Police Department, now leads a crash course in distracted driving. From fender benders to serious wrecks. His message to officers: you can't divide your focus between computers and the road.
You may get complacent in what you do and realize, well, I can do all these things and still maintain control of my vehicle, when reality is you can't.
And that is the basic crux of the situation. We think we can multitask. We think we can do all this stuff. We think we're better than the average driver on the road, and we may very well be. But at the end of the day, we can't beat physics and we can't beat physiology. Our brain works the way it works. And we don't need to put ourselves in a position that we can cause harm to the citizens. Next slide. Here's a dash cam footage from my agency of what happens when an officer is not paying attention. It doesn't take much. That video, even though if it was running smoothly, that was about 2 seconds. It took about 2 seconds to look away at the computer and not look back up to see that traffic was stopping and to cause a crash. Next slide. So what can we do to prevent a crash? At the end of the day, it may be old school technology, but use the radio. If you're moving, close that laptop lid and make it less appealing. Use the radio to get the information you need. If you don't remember the lookout or if you don't remember the address, ask for it again. There is technology out there that can be purchased and hooked up to your laptop to where the laptop itself is either blanked out when the vehicle's in motion, or the laptop is frozen where you can't manipulate it or change screens or anything, so that your call screen can be up there with the information on it, but you can't send emails, you can't do anything, you can't change the screen. Really, the best thing you can do is just shut the screen totally. Shut the laptop so you're not even tempted to look at it. And if you have to use the laptop for some reason, if you need to, if the dispatch channel is busy and you can't get on there and you need to look up an address or look up a description or something, pull off to the side of the road when you use that laptop. There's no reason to try to do it while you're driving down the road. Next slide. There's 2 major traffic safety events coming up. The first one is the National Traffic Incident Responder Awareness Week, which is the 2nd week of November. It's all about slow down and move over and responder safety and this type of thing, you can go to Federal Highways website or to the NHTSA.gov website or Traffic Safety Marketing to get information on it. Another one is the Drive Sober or Get Pulled Over enforcement mobilization coming up December 16th through January 1st. If your agency is not participating in that, you can go online to Traffic Safety Marketing or NHTSA to get information about it and see if your agency would like to participate in that. Next slide, please. I really appreciate your attention today and your time. If you have any questions or comments about the presentation, any suggestions on how to improve it, or if you have any questions, please let us know. You can post into the Q&A or the chat section of the WebEx event we're in. If you hover your mouse over toward the bottom of your screen, you'll see a bunch of windows pop up. And there's one, the third one from the right, says chat. You can click on that and send a message in. I'll answer that for you. Or you can contact Jeff Allen at the email address that he'll put up at the end. And if he doesn't know it and I don't know it, we'll contact somebody who does to make sure you have the right information. Again, I appreciate your time in this and stay safe out there. Your next presenter, or Jeff Corbin, you want to take over?
No, I got it. I got it, Jeff. Jay Cox, DHEC. I just read the thing here. DHEC investigating 300 gallons of gas spilled in Surfside Beach. You're the on-call guy. What are you doing here? No, I'm glad you're here because Jay has some great information to share with us. And it's all about stuff we need to know. When do we call them? What do we call them for? What can they do? What can't they do? So Jay, I'll hand the microphone over to you and go ahead.
Okay, Jeff, just want to get a quick 10-4. You can hear me?
Perfect.
Okay. Yeah, Surfside call, that was Tuesday night. Yeah, I did work that one and still working it and continue to follow it up until that one's taken care of. I am Jay Cox. I'm with the South Carolina Department of Health and Environmental Control. Out of the Myrtle Beach office. I'm currently the environmental response coordinator for our area, which includes Horry, Williamsburg, and Georgetown counties. Next slide. And a presentation we kind of put together is meant to provide just some general information on DHEC's environmental response to reported releases or spills that can include chemicals or fuels or other materials. And each county or region in the state will have slightly different resource capabilities. So things that we talk about may not always occur or be possible in each county and area, but in general, they're fairly similar. Next slide. So initial notifications, we have a spill that's occurred. A first responder or someone of that nature is on scene. They call us and to report that there's been a tractor trailer that's overturned. There's been a spill of some kind. And so the number they can call 24-hour is 1-888-481-0125. And that's manned by our central office personnel who then turn around and reach out to us out in the area where the incidents occurred. And so the emergency management department or 911 dispatch typically call us and stuff like that, and we like to try and get a contact information for who that first responder is on the scene, fire department personnel, incident commander, highway patrol, so we can reach out to them, or if needed, we'll provide our number so they can reach out to us if they feel more comfortable with that, so that we can make contact with that first responder and start to begin to work on it. So the on-scene coordinator, after getting the report, closest regional on-scene coordinator, that will be the person that's on call in that area. This past week, that was me. And we're contacted to go out and make an initial response, assess kind of what has happened, and start to work on what needs to be done to do some corrective action. And so if we feel like we need some additional resources or staff to offer some other advice on what may have occurred, we'll again call back to our central office staffing to ask for any additional resources that we may need. Next slide. DEAC responsibilities and routing on the scene. So when we're heading towards the scene, once we've been dispatched, we're going to be making contact with that incident commander and trying to provide an ETA when they can expect us there. That way they know kind of what to look for. We're driving this vehicle. We should be there this amount of time. Where do we need to park? That kind of information. If they can also start to provide us with some information on the responsible party, which would be the basically, for instance, an overturned tractor trailer, that would be possibly that trucking company, the truck owner, and any kind of information on the material that they believe has been released and possible impacts that's occurred. Next slide. It's DHEC responsibilities on the scene. So we are there to kind of make sure that responsible party or possibly the fire department has started to make some strides to control the release at source and any containment, keeping it from getting in any ditches. And if it gets into ditches, it could get into storm drains or creeks, rivers, and other kind of streams. And then there will be a proper cleanup, which is going to typically be the responsibility of the truck owner or whoever kind of calls the incident responsible party. And we'll be ensuring that responsible party has done an appropriate cleanup. Next slide. Other information that we're going to be gathering is what time did it occur, what materials were released, what quantities were released, any known hazards of that material, any safety data sheets, any manifest shipping papers. Is there currently a responsible party on site? Is there a cleanup contractor en route? And pretty much anytime that I'm on call and I get a call, I cover just about all of these questions when I get a call. Next slide. Again, some more additional information we gather, identify the extent, volume, impacted areas, and areas with potentials to be impacted. So we know there's an immediate impact to this area right here where it actually occurred. Is it going to hit a storm drain or a ditch and impact something else? If there's a responsible party on site, we're going to start to gather their information, their contact information, address, phone numbers. Insurance company comes into play on that if they're responsible for the third-party cleanup contractor and other information of that nature. And we're also going to be relaying details of the incident back to that responsible party. So kind of give them an idea of how much they're going to need to bring to bear to start a cleanup on this incident. Next slide. We don't have a responsible party there at the time, or we don't know who that is, or sometimes it's been a pretty nasty crash or something, and we're just not able to get any information from the driver or something. We'll start to work with the highway patrol, law enforcement to use some license plate information, use some SCDOT ID information on the truck, anything that might be available in the vehicle that we could use, any kind of phone apps. Phone apps have gotten really good lately to where there's a lot of identification information we can use. And we also can, again, reach back to our central office duty officer and provide any of that information and have them also try to help us. If we have a trucking company, but we don't know who to actually contact, we can tell them, hey, we got this trucking company, and they can usually track down a number or a safety employee or something like that we can talk to about the incident. Next slide. DEAC responsibilities for cleanup. So we're there to basically ensure that environmental releases have been properly disposed of. So hazardous waste goes to a hazardous waste type facility that can handle that. Other types of waste go to the proper landfill. We verify any kind of manifest, shipping papers, ticket receipts with that entity that's receiving the material to ensure that the responsible party took it there. Identifying any receptors, that's against the creeks, waterways, ponds, things of that nature for any kind of follow-up that may be needed. So if we had an incident that affected a large, pond or something, then we want to make sure there's not a continuing, lingering release or residuals that are causing any problems. Next slide. There we go. DX not responsible for initiating evacuation, traffic control. We leave that to our professionals of the highway patrol. Medical services to the EMTs and ambulance staff personnel. Public safety with the fire department, usually the fire chief, or fire marshal. I've had incidences where they've wanted to cut power or turn power back on to some areas, and we've kind of deferred to the fire marshal on that as far as safety is concerned. Moving a vehicle, I'm going to be talking with the highway patrol officer on that, and he may ask me while I'm en route, hey, can I go ahead and pull this vehicle, to get it out of the way to try and get the road back open. And if it doesn't appear that there's any too much trouble with that, then we'll say, yeah, go ahead and pull it. Send me a picture of what you're kind of doing, and go ahead and pull it and get the road open. Roadside cleanup contractor is going to need to coordinate with DOT or county, for any kind of traffic safety. And again, just this week, the cleanup contractor had to contact Highway Patrol where they came in, set up cones, did a left block, and I was able to talk to them on my way in, and they halted traffic while I got up in front of them, and we took a look at the incident. So next slide. Just some examples of some of the releases that we deal with, what a first responder may see when they arrive. That would initiate a call to us. So you got a tractor trailer that was carrying some barrels of some material, and they don't know what that is necessarily, or what it might do if it was to get wet or if it was to catch fire. So they want to kind of contact us to, find that information out, or determine any kind of safety measures they need to take before they try to approach the scene or attempt any kind of cleanup or even containment. So any kind of inhalation hazard, fire hazard, or anything like that. Next slide. Fuel releases tend to be one that, especially around here in my region and in our counties, that we deal with a pretty good bit. And again, you have an accident where a tractor trailer has overturned or had an accident of some type, and we've either had a fuel leak that's broken or a saddle tank that's ruptured, and we've got an active release of fuel. Sometimes the saddle tank's completely lost every bit of fuel it had. Next slide. And so that typically looks like that. I had one a couple of years ago that looked exactly like that. And they were fire department guys were there trying to catch what they could in a bucket. But we've got an impact to the roadway and the kind of the side of the road, soil that's on the side of the road. And so it's going to be important about what size the tanks are, how much fuel they may have had in it, how recently did they fill it up. Information like that can determine, what kind of cleanup response may be needed. Next slide. And sometimes we have to wait until the vehicle's been pulled out of the incident location to determine where the impacts are. And we can kind of see where this has probably impacted the highway and some of the side of the road there and some of the soil. Next slide. And of course, on the pavement part, we're looking at sand, dirt, oil dry, something like that can kind of pick up the fuel that's been spilled on the hard pavement there. And then we'll kind of look into the soil removal on the next slide. And so removal of any roadside fuel contamination, that could typically be, picked up, removed, placed into drums, and taken off to a proper disposal. They can also use vac trucks if there's large puddles of fuel and there's still free product in them, and it's kind of been contained in that one little area. And next slide. Issues related to cleanup. Sometimes if the spill has just occurred on pavement and it's not really gotten off to the side, or DOT a lot of times will be able to put down some sand. That'll help with drying up or keeping something contained and not letting it get too far away, and kind of contain that spill to the pavement. The contractor, the cleanup contractor, third-party contractor would be expected to clean that sand up, basically. And we certainly do appreciate DOT's assistance when they have come in to help get some sand down and not cause some other further impacts, down the line somewhere on the side of the road. Sometimes on pavement, it's hard to and can be difficult to remove everything. If it's gasoline, evaporation, we'll tend to take care of a good bit. Sometimes we can just get as much as we can get and have to leave it to naturally attenuate sometimes, depending on how much has been released into the roadway. Thank you. Next slide. So RP responsibilities, any kind of notifications that they need to make, other state or federal regulations, so National Response Center, U.S. Coast Guard, any county officials, they would be required to make those proper notifications to those other agencies. Spill containment, again, that's making sure it doesn't get any further than what's already been impacted, and not allowing it to affect other properties if possible. And cleanup and removal of waste is going to typically be performed by the third-party contractor. And any disposal as well, and disposal information, manifest, and other receipt tickets to a disposal facility will usually be, communicated back to that regional on-scene coordinator. I'm the one that's on call. I'm going to typically be the one that deals with that contractor until they're basically done with it. They're going to provide something to me at the end that says, we removed this much soil, we applied this much oil dry, we used this many barrels, and we took it to this site to have it properly disposed of, and here's our ticket showing that we brought it in and we had this much tonnage that was disposed of at this location. So next slide. So any kind of general questions, our agency main line, 803-898-3432. And of course, again, any 24-hour, like to make a call that there's been a spill of some kind, is 1-888-481-0125. And our hope at some point when this gets back to a little bit of face-to-face, we're able to do that again. We'd like to have our ERT persons be able to give this presentation in those face-to-face ones when it can be possible again. And thank you for your time.
H, thanks a lot. That's important information. I know I was just sitting here thinking about the time that we had a 2 o'clock Friday afternoon outbound from Columbia. We shut I-26 down at 2 in the afternoon until 2 the next morning. 12 hours. Don't think that was very popular with the commuters, but we had no choice. It was a hazmat incident. Driver had already been transported to the hospital, overcome by the fumes, and a lot of rough stuff going on. We had to make sure, as with all hazmat incidents, that that was handled right. Nobody further was injured because of the event. So the information you shared with us is great, and we look forward to, again, getting back to face-to-face stuff and getting your regional guys out to talk to the 10 different meetings. Of course, we'll see you again in Myrtle Beach, and we want to thank your agency, DHEC, very, very much for allowing you to participate in these. I mean, the 23 years I spent in the fire service and 15 years as a law enforcement officer, a lot of this stuff we had to know. We had to get to know you guys. We had to make sure we were doing things carefully and safely, because they can, just like responding to a roadway incident, they can turn south in a second and become very deadly. So anyway, that's pretty well going to wrap up stuff here. For those that have joined us, you can follow us on facebook.com, as you can see there, /SCTIM Network, or twitter.com /SCTIM Network. Any training that's upcoming or any additional meetings, and we have 10 meetings in the fall, 10 meetings in the spring. You can click on sctimnetwork.com. You see down on the lower right there, and pull up the calendar, click on any event, and feel free to register and participate. Next slide, please. We'll have some contact information here. My partner in crime, retired after 30 years with the Highway Patrol, Ray Parker. He's with the SCDOT. He is the Traffic Incident Management Coordinator with the DOT, and he and I work closely together on this program. You can see his email and telephone contact information there, and then my information is below that. So really, just to sum things up today, thank you very much, everyone that joined us. Thank you to the presenters. There was some good information that was shared here, and we want to make sure that everybody is operating as safe as possible so that in the future, as I always like to say, we talk to you and not about you. So have a great day.